having a passion for excellence. So someone such as yourself, who's achieved great things in a multitude of different directions, you clearly have a passion for excellence. So,
yeah, when I think of phrases like that, I immediately think of Mike Panagio because he's always jumping up phrases like that. I don't speak that way. I come into anything I do to just try to do it to the very best of my ability. Make sure I don't let anybody down to get a win at the end of the day. I don't think in terms of particular adjectives or how to describe a performance of mine. I just know that my effort at the end of the day is going to far supersede anybody else's.
I mean, that's having a passion for excellence. So before we dive into depth with this,
because I can't stand to be outworked.
I didn't know that.
Of course, it depends on what it is. Doing chores,
you could be outworked.
I might let my wife win in that one.
Yeah.
But I recall growing up as a kid, the idea that somebody else was out working on their jump shot while I was in bed getting an extra minute of sleep, that drove me nuts. So I can't tell you the amount of times I woke up in the middle of the night. Not woke up, I hadn't gone to sleep yet, but just got out of bed in the middle of the night just to go to my driveway and get some shots up. The thought of somebody else outworking me, getting a scholarship that should have been mine, or winning a game that I should have won, that drove me a lot.
Not to get too sentimental, but
have we started?
Yeah, this is it.
Oh, okay.
See, it's a nice, easy transition. There's a couple backstory things I want to start with before we dive into your journey. One is especially for those listening.
One final thing. I'm very hot-natured. Do we have any AC? Can we make it cooler in here? Please?
Yeah, we could probably, I don't know, it's probably on like 77 now.
77?
It's crazy.
It's on 70 in my house, 68 when we go to sleep.
Yeah, I keep it 69.
Yeah.
That's
Lower
good?
that thing to...
68 now?
Good man. Michael pay for it. It's fine.
He'll pay for it. So I wanted to start off by saying I turned 28 years old in February 3rd.
Wow.
As I look back,
28.
I know. So as I look back through my life and what made me who I am today, especially the man I am today and who I want to become, I'm starting to realize that there are certain moments and pivotal moments in my life that help shape who I am. It could be certain family events, it could be certain conversations, and two real pivotal moments stick out to me is the Vince Carter camp when I first met you. I don't know how old I was, but it was the first time I really immersed myself in basketball. I was god-awful. But I remember seeing you do the shooting drill, and it was just a shooting drill, but you couldn't miss twice, and I remember seeing your effort and tenacity and how much you cared about what you were doing. And that shaped my whole mindset of how I need to approach practice. And then the second one would be, it's not necessarily one specific moment, it's more of the relationship I formed with you, and that is every day before school. It could be conversations during lunch, it could be when just going to your portable, car drives when you used to drive me to the rec, was you were instilling a certain mindset in me that I now see today, that carried over way past basketball. And of course, at the time, I only thought it was really just basketball. So if I outwork everybody, if I show up early, if I'm gracious, if I'm kind, if I'm strong, if I'm confident, being a good man, being a good leader towards my family. And at the time, my parents were divorced, so I was really trying to find leadership and who to follow, and you were like the perfect person to follow. And that really shaped the way I do things now, because as you get into business and covering the NBA and broadcasting, those little intangibles about showing up early, not wanting to be outworked, paying attention to how the ball rotates, those details carry over to how you do your day-to-day, or how you interact with people, how you carry yourself. So those two moments, I just really want to say thank you, because the older I get, not that I'm old, I'm starting to realize you were teaching me way more than basketball. So I always want to say thank you.
Well, I returned by saying thank you. That means somebody heard me.
Yeah, and I noticed not everyone related to it, though. Not everyone likes being coached that hard. Not everybody would really take what you were saying and process it and digest it. They would get a little defensive, or they think you're too hard or you're too firm. Not everyone had that drive, and I felt like I was able to relate to you more than any other coach. because I loved that. I didn't want anyone, and you'd beat me every time we'd have a shootout, but I remember just constantly wanting to shoot again and practice again and lose and lose and lose, but keep going. And other people I've noticed would quit, or they would rely on talent. They were worried about girls or drugs, whatever the case may be, but I was just so obsessed with being better. And I didn't feel like anyone else really saw you in that way. Well, I mean, obviously the world does, but at that specific team, I didn't think they understood the value they were getting.
Well, what you did is the same thing that I did when I was a kid. You losing didn't demoralize you. It didn't bring you down. It raised you up. You hated it. You hated it enough that you didn't want it to be a ritual thing. You didn't want to make a lifestyle of it.
No.
There's a difference between loving to win and hating to lose. I hate to lose more than I love winning. I hate the feeling of losing. Not that I'm a sore loser. I can handle losing. It's the act of losing and not coming out on top that is way more heartbreaking than the thrill of a win. You know, and I guess the reason for that is, you know, you win something, okay, great, but there's something coming up soon that you're going to have to win. You can't celebrate too long. So I can't really describe it. It's just one of those things that you're either competitive or you're not, and you always were. You always had that competitive nature, and it made you obviously the person you are today.
Thank you.
Well done.
And I would get obsessed. Like I just wanted, because I didn't have the natural talent probably that most, or people who make it at certain levels have. So I knew I had to put in more work, or even just.
Nobody has natural talent. People
You
have
don't believe in
natural
that?
abilities. People have natural athleticism. You know, I mean, can Carl Lewis, you know, stroke a jumper?
Right.
I don't know. You know, he is a natural athlete, but what kind of a basketball player are you? There's a difference between athletes and basketball players. You know, you really got to, you know, Stephen Curry, basketball player.
Right.
That wasn't natural. He had to work at all that stuff. Same thing. Michael Jordan wasn't natural. The guy got cut in his high school career. He had to work on he had natural athleticism, but basketball talent, there's so many intangibles that you just have to, you develop over time by, you know, the type of person you are and how much effort you spend into the game.
Yeah. And the other thing I wanted to mention too was, I don't know if you remember this, when I was 18 when I first started a podcast. It was way back in the day, and I worked at a warehouse, and it was in the office of the warehouse. I was able to go in at night and use that space, and I put up a cheap banner, and I started interviewing local coaches. And I did that before I ended up on radio and getting internship in LA.
Didn't I come on that show
And you
once?
came on that show.
Yeah.
And so that was, I believe, my first guest I ever had, recording a podcast.
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so when I was 18 years old in a warehouse, and so now having
cool.
like the resources we have and the platform that we've been able to create, it's just a really cool.
And I'm not your first guest for this one. Now that you've got all the bells and whistles,
save the best for last. You're busy. You're a busy man.
Very good.
But the point of this podcast, how I made it, and I know you're a humble person, so you're not going to say you made it, but we're obsessed with learning about the mindset and the intangibles that make people successful. And it can be in any realm of life: an athlete, an entrepreneur, a politician, a pastor, or whatever the case may be. There are certain intangibles that, you know, I've always asked a lot of questions. So it was a no-brainer. It's bigger than basketball, this podcast. So my question for you to start off is, you obviously were obsessed with basketball, and it helped shape who you are today. But what are the things that, we'll start off with, what did basketball mean to you in your life? How did it help shape a lot of the things? I mean, we discussed some of it, but.
Oh, man. It was everything as a kid growing up. You know, I used to think it was basketball, but it was competition that I loved to compete. You know, my older brothers, my dad, always competing with them, and I could never beat my dad. You talk about somebody that had a jump shot. You know, he stand at the top of the key and just stroke it all day long. I just could not beat him. So the thrill that I had when I finally was able to beat him, same with my older brother Kenny. I could never beat him, and you know, when I finally did, those were big moments in my life. It's just as big as winning a state championship was beating Dad in a shootout.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'd say just sports in general has helped me, because I loved baseball growing up. You know, I loved volleyball when I played that in high school. I mean, a variety of things. So, but basketball, there was a love for the game that I had for that was unlike the others. I guess is because I had more control in the game. Not that I'm a control freak or anything of that nature. It's just the ball was in my hands. I got to dictate the tempo of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, one of the decisions I made when it came time to, all right, I really need to just zero in and focus on one sport. When I'm at shortstop on the baseball field, primo position, but a ball's hit out in right field, it's not my play to make.
Yeah.
You know, but if I'm on the floor and I'm the point guard and I have the ball 90% of the time, I have a real good shot at being, you know, one of the guys that dictates how this is going to end.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, to have the ball in my hands at the end of the day, not because I wanted the praise, because oftentimes we lost, and I'm going to have the blame as well.
Yeah.
It's just that I knew, at least I felt anyway, that no one on this court had prepared themselves for this moment like I had. I trusted myself with the ball. I trusted myself to make the shot at the end of the game. Again, not because I wanted the limelight, because again, sometimes it's not the limelight, it's a shadow because you missed it or you lost, and it was on you. And I had a number of times that happened to me as well. But it didn't take away from the fact that nobody had prepared themselves more for that moment than I had, and I felt that I was ready for those times. So basketball allowed me to have that sense of control and, to use a phrase, decide my own fate.
That's really cool. And now I'm so proud when I'm able to talk to people, and it's like, yeah, I see you as coach. I still call you coach, but to say state representative and then a member of the Republican Party of Florida State Executive Committee, and it's like, oh yeah, that's who taught me how to shoot. That's how I see you. But what made you transition into that realm? Like, what was your calling? That's a huge commitment.
I'll have to give you cliff notes because I think a lot of events put me in that position. You know, one, my dad was a history teacher for years and always talked politics. So I wasn't much of a student growing up, but I could always listen to Dad talk about government and history and politics. Because he did it in such a way that was talking about the stuff that isn't in your history textbooks.
Yeah.
Made things exciting. You know, when you tell me that Woodrow Wilson was used to golfed more than any other president in history, even golfed in the snow. How did he do that? He painted the golf balls black so we could find them in the snow. So little things like that were kind of just fascinating to hear about. William Howard Taft. We know about him. Fattest president we ever got stuck in his own bathtub.
Yeah.
These are things that are humorous and that are real life, that are outside the realm of politics, that bring it down to everyday living that you can relate with. And slowly I started relating with it more, and I just had a love for history. And from the political arena, frankly, I come from a life of service. My parents were both teachers growing up and coaches. They dedicated their lives to serving other people. All growing up, always meet people saying, "Hey, Miss Tremont. Hey, Coach Tremont. Hey, Coach," because my mom coached as well. So seeing them invest their lives into people all my life growing up was really cool to see. Even though they were divorced, had their own separate lives, but were still friends. I mean, I still got the dynamic of having a relationship with my mom and my dad. But to see them living a life of service was very impactful for me. And serving as a pastoral role for a number of years, I mean, that's nothing but just like politics, really, in the sense that you're serving people. Mm-hmm. Same thing when you're teaching and coaching, you're serving one another. And when you go back to basketball, when you talk about, I want the ball in my hands, I want to decide my own fate. Well, in the political arena, there are people that are making decisions that drastically affect my family and I. Well, who do I want making those decisions? Who do I trust more than myself? Right. So if somebody's going to make a decision that's going to impact the livelihood of my family and the people that I love, then I'm going to make the decision.
Right.
Now, whether I get it right or wrong, I don't know. But no one's going to prepare themselves more for that moment than I will.
What's up, guys? We had to interrupt you very quickly to please do not forget to hit the subscribe button. What that does, when you subscribe to the HIMI Podcast, it increases our production, and it allows us, most importantly, to book and schedule guests that you want to hear from most. So I appreciate you guys. We appreciate you so much for even just watching it, but please support the show by hitting the subscribe button. Back to the show.
What conversation could I ever be a part of again that's going to make me nervous? or give me a cause for concern or fear that I'm going to be in the same room with this person, or I have to answer this question, or I have to address this particular group or talk about this particular topic.
Yeah.
So those events have prepared me for anything going forward. There's no fear in any conversation or interaction that I ever will have with anybody, because I've already done the toughest there is.
That's a really interesting perspective. I haven't experienced that yet, so I can't imagine, but that's a really interesting perspective. I feel like that frees you a little bit, though.
Yeah, gives you a lot of confidence, that you're able to handle anything that comes your way. Not arrogance, but, confidence. But, you can equate it to going back to sports. I've made the shot before. I can do it again. Mm-hmm. All right, I iced the game with, free throws. I remember my freshman year being at the free throw line, and I was splitting time with a senior at the time, getting, marginal playing time. But I took the last shot, and I got fouled at the thing. It was 0.5 seconds on the clock, and I was fouled at the three-point line, and we were down by 3. I had to make them all for us to go in overtime at their place, at Florida Memorial. Tough place to play. And knocked them all down, and there wasn't
you don't miss free throws.
there wasn't a thing. Well, actually, I was only about a 78% free throw shooter, believe it or not, 70, maybe 81%. But when the game was on the line, I was knocking them down. But I look back and I'm thinking, I iced the state championship game with 2 free throws. This is nothing here.
Yeah.
Again, not arrogance.
No,
it's just looking at what you've overcome in your life, or what you've been able to accomplish. Then it gives you confidence later on, even in hard times in life. Because I can also go back to, foreclosures and bankruptcies that I've experienced in my life, and heartbreaks that I've gone through, and look to the future, say, hey, I've been through the ringer.
Yeah.
I can get through this moment as well. That's why I always, at the first service of the year at my church, to my congregation, I congratulate them. Here we are. You're starting the new year, and the reason I'm congratulating you is because look back at year 2025 or 24 or 2020, whatever it was. You took the very worst that the world could throw at you. You took it all, and you're still here. And that can be applied to any area and any stage of your life where you are right now. Look at where you're at right now. Look back at your entire life, all the challenges you've had to overcome.
Right.
You've taken the worst that the devil can throw at you, and you're still here. That's something to give you confidence that going forward, you're going to continue to take the very worst that the world and the devil can throw at you, and you're going to get through just like you did before. So that's a sense of confidence that you should have in yourself.
Who taught you how to think like this? Was it something you just learned? Is it because I feel like, especially the younger, and we'll get into a little bit of the younger generation, I want your perspective, but I've heard a stat the other day, and I want to say it was 61% of Gen Z is suffering from some type of mental anxiety, depression, and I feel like a lot of younger people have trouble internalizing and managing their thoughts and building confidence. So how did you learn how to have this thought process to get yourself through and navigate through some of these obstacles?
I honestly don't know. I mean, I think a lot of it comes through sports and athletes and athletics, pushing yourself beyond the limit physically that you're able to do when you're training, and constantly putting yourself in a position to be challenged. I never wanted to play in my age group when I was younger. I hated it. I didn't want to play with people my age. I wanted a challenge. I wanted them to be bigger, taller, stronger, and faster than me. That was the challenge. And if I can do that, then, when I am playing against people my age, then it'll feel like a breeze. That was my mindset going into my freshman year. I thought to myself, all right, I'm going to play varsity. I'm going to handle the ball against Vince Carter and T.T. Tolliver and guys like that. And when they're long gone in their collegiate career or NBA, I'm still going to be here playing against people who were playing freshman ball when I was playing against Vince Carter. It just, again, it's not an arrogant thinking. It's a confidence level
self-talk.
that you're building within yourself based on your experiences and your accomplishments and your failures, frankly. You can build a lot of confidence from your own failures in life.
And I think it's important too, because entering your realm, and you could speak to this a lot more, you're probably having a lot of people who want to tear you down or have opposing views who may not communicate or express it in the nicest way. So if you don't have that internal dialogue and strength and be your biggest supporter, the external will tear you apart. But how did you navigate when you first get into the political realm, leading people in that space? Was it a change? Was it an adjustment? Because not everybody responds to the same way. How has that transition been like for you?
Well, you don't tell anybody what to do in the political arena. You simply do what you have said you're going to do. But I always try to avoid making specific promises on, particular issues if it's not a right or wrong issue. Because, I heard somebody say a while ago, there's no hard decisions, there's only right and wrong. It's not always the case when it comes to politics and when you come to local government and things of that nature. Sometimes it's just a policy disagreement. Neither one of them are right, neither one of them is wrong. It's just a matter of what is your perspective going to be. The only thing I promise is that I'm going to stick to my principles and my values. I'm not going to violate who I am. And that's what people elect me for. People elect people for all sorts of variety of reasons. They elect you because they agree with you on this position, or they elect with you because they may not agree with you, but they like you and they know you and they feel good with you, but they don't really have any idea what your position is. They just know who you are. Or it's, I know this, and this is really where I center my focus and my attention on the folks that vote for me based on, they know what my values are, they know what my principles are and what my moral code is and where I derive my decision-making strategies from. And they trust that at the end of the day. Even if they disagree with me, they still trust me at the end of the day to do what I believe is morally right, what's the word I'm looking for? Common sense, the common sense approach. That's who I'm going to listen to at the end of the day. Are the folks that vote for me because they trust me to make the best decision that I believe is in the best interest of the people that I represent.
I love listening to this, and then we work closely with General Ernie Audino, and he's one of the
phenomenal man.
Oh my goodness, he's taught us so much. He is always so humble. He's always so at peace. We can't ever compliment him.
American hero, brilliant mind.
He throws it right back at us every time we give him a compliment, and he's always big on team. And it's just inspiring to hear that. And one of the things that I wanted to ask you was, how are you able to have conversations with everybody? And I feel like nowadays, and we were talking to Daryl about this, for younger people listening and getting into politics or getting information, I think you're starting to see that some people aren't always able to have a civil conversation and just listen and not make it so personal. And other people are. And like General Ernie Audino, that's why we love listening to him, is that he can talk to everybody. And he's just, like to your point, the kind of human being he is. His moral code. And you always know he's listening and he's fair. How have you been able to be one of those few people, it seems like, that can have a conversation with just everybody?
Simple. You don't have a conversation with anyone that's not interested in a good faith conversation. If they just simply want to blast you, I'm not going to waste my time with that. But I've not found that is the norm. That's typically your social media keyboard cowards, and I make it clear. I don't call them keyboard warriors; they're keyboard cowards because the amount of time, and I don't even like using that term because I'm not a derogatory person. I don't like to call people names. At the same time, the amount of people that I've offered anyone online that wants me to respond to something, say, hey, here's my number. If you want to have a conversation, we can have a conversation. We can have a honest, respectful, good faith dialogue. But most people are just wanting to, if they have a question, you give them an answer, they got 10 more right afterwards. And it's not really designed to get information. It's just designed because they want to blast you.
Yeah.
Those folks is not the norm, but they're very prevalent on social media. And people need to understand what I try to tell any elected official when they first come into office. Social media is not the real world. Those are not your real constituents. They are your constituents and they're expressing their needs, so be it. But more often than not, it's what's the term I'm looking for? They're all preaching to the choir there. And I'll ask you probably not to post that because I don't want to blast those folks. But anybody that's willing to have a dialogue and conversation, I'll talk with anybody. And this mindset, this idea, this false narrative that, sorry, I'm just checking my watch, plenty of time.
Yeah, you're good.
This idea that
I can manage the clock. I'm a point guard, you know?
Yeah, I got, well done. Stall game all the time, yeah. The idea that the people on the right and the left can't have an honest dialogue is not based in reality. It's on that on social media. You're not going to find a lot. But one-on-one, I give you an example. Michelle Rayner, Anna Escamani. Those names are not familiar to you, but if you talk to any active Democrat in the state of Florida, they know who those names are because they're prevalent Democrats, some of the most powerful Democrats in the state. And I'm talking far left. Anna Escamani is one of the furthest left politicians in the entire state of Florida. And by all practical purpose, and here's her views, here's mine. We're way over here. But I love her to death.
That's awesome.
We actually get along phenomenally well. I think she's a good person. She's fun to talk to. She'll give a floor debate, and I'll go up, give her a high five afterwards. Hey, nice job,
beautiful.
Nice job. Actually, the first time I ever met her, the way my introduction to her was, I don't like a thing that you say, but I love the way you say it. I appreciate her passion and her passion for excellence and how she does. She just has a different way and different perspective in which she's going to do that. But I respect that, and she respects me as well, because I hold position. I'm running matter of fact, I texted her the other day. I said, hey, I got a couple bills that you are definitely not going to like. So anytime you want to sit down and chat about it, let's do it. And of course, she laughs about it, and she's going to grill me to death when I present a couple of those bills. But they'll be, respectful. Now, not everybody gets along like that. But I choose to, I'm a 90s guy, all right? I choose to kind of go back to that way of thinking, to where you didn't know what everybody thought about everything because social media wasn't around.
Yeah.
It's funny. I was at a Jaguars game not too long ago. So Jacksonville, all right? Probably a little further left than it is right, all right? No fighting, thousands and thousands of people in that arena. Not one fight broke out. I didn't hear of any arguments. I didn't hear of anybody getting ejected from the arena or anything like that. And matter of fact, you could pan through the crowd and see people that have probably never met each other, but they're high-fiving one another. They're hugging each other. Imagine if each one of them had to wear their party label on their shirts when they went to those games. Yeah. I wonder what kind of an excited crowd it would be then.
That's interesting.
So people can get along no matter who they are, what background they are, what kind of beliefs they have. But the second you start making that the foundation of how you view everybody else, well, then that you're probably not going to have many substantial dialogues with people that you disagree with. And as Charlie Kirk used to always say, if you're not talking at the end of the day, then the society breaks down.
Yeah.
Same goes with marriage. The second the husband and wife stop talking, the marriage is going to die.
Right.
All right. When children and parents stop talking, relationship fades. All right. And that's true any which way.
Yeah.
So the second we all stop talking, the right and the left, that's when real problems. We have real problems now, but any real problem can be solved through conversation.
I love that. I've been more immersed into politics than I've ever been. There's a lot for me to still know and learn, but I tried to educate myself as much as possible, listen to as much as possible, take what I like, understand that don't just read what you agree with, read the other side, be open to listen to everything. And I think one thing I'm noticing more than ever is that people, to your point earlier, are voting for people that they can trust, and it's the person. It's not necessarily that they agree with everything that you think or do, but they trust the person that you are, your moral code. And I think as you look at this past election and you look at things going forward, people like the human aspect, knowing that you're a human being, that you're normal, that you're flawed. Everyone's flawed, but you're who you are. And you've been able to do a really good job at connecting with people.
Well, and I try to compose myself in a manner that's always going to be approachable. Sometimes the most difficult part about being in the political arena, when you're a pastor, you make your living on, you want to be embraced, you want to be accepted, you want to be liked because you have a message that you want to share with folks. So the difference of that, getting in the political arena, some people will just not like me no matter what, because I have an R next to my name. Or there have been people that have liked me and have supported me and have voted for me in the past, only to find out later on, wait a second, I didn't know you were this conservative. I didn't know you actually supported and vote for Trump. Wait, I thought you were a good Republican. That's been sometimes kind of humorous and a little disappointing, frankly, that people will make their entire entire opinion. Even people, not just people that you sort of know, but people that you've known for a long time. That has been probably the most difficult part. People that have known you all your life, but now they see you in the political arena, and all of a sudden now everything that they knew about you, your character, your morals, your values, who you are as a husband, as a father, who you were as a child, as an upbringing, as a worker, as someone just trying to make it in life. And now because your political views, they question the moral character. I have a problem with that. And that is unfortunate. That has been the most disappointing and depressing thing about politics, is seeing where people, how far people go. And I know it happens on both sides, but it's difficult for me to embrace that sometimes because, I can go back and look and say, well, wait a second. You voted for Joe Biden. You're a staunch Democrat, and yet I don't think anything less of you at all. So whose politics are really the problem here? Is it mine or is it yours? Since you now hold me in contempt because of my political views, and yet I still choose to see you for the person who you are and separate your political views, but you don't want to reciprocate in that. And that's, it's okay. I can handle that.
Well, let me ask you this. You remember we talked earlier about you wanted to win, like just competition in general. You hate losing more than even like winning, but you want to win. At the end of the day, you want to win. What is winning in politics? Like what does winning look like? And what is winning for you? Obviously, you win an election, that's great, but like further than that.
A great question, because I don't think there's any particular way to define that, because there's so many things that are involved in that. I don't think it's not one win. Yeah, it's multiple wins. Did I get this bill passed? Great, big win. Did I bring this amount of money home? Did I bring this money home for this project for my constituents here, for this city? Great, that's a win. Now, those are specific wins that I can chalk up, but I think the more intangible wins might be the ones that you're talking about, is I would say maintaining my integrity and composure, maintaining my commitment first and foremost to my faith and my family, and kind of proving that you can serve in political office in the most, perhaps one of the toughest industries to serve in, and not sell your soul to do it. Now, I'll be accused of selling my soul to do that, but I stopped caring what people think about me a long time. I don't know if I ever really cared what people thought about me at the end of the day, because
you know who you are.
Yeah, I live to serve my Lord and Savior, and to serve and provide for my family. Those are the opinions that matter to me. That's it. And frankly, I actually enjoy the trash talk. It kind of brings me back to my days as a player. I remember when we go down to St. Thomas or Nova Southeastern, places like that down in Miami, and they'd have their student section, Embry-Riddle, they'd have their student section, and they would research you. They knew the names of my sister. They knew all sorts of stuff about me and other players. And then when they start talking to you about your personal life from the crowd, trying to get you off your game, I found it humorous and I found it very complimentary. That if these guys are signaling me out and wanting to throw me off my game, that must mean my game is doing detriment to theirs. So I took it as a compliment. So anytime I get I don't engage on social media, but what I do is I do make posts out there from time to time, and I'll let my comments stand. And when I see some of the crazies out there going on there and ripping me to shreds, I don't pay any mind to it. I don't respond to it arrogantly, like I look down on them. But if people aren't, you're not just judged by the people that you surround yourself with that influence you. You're also judged by the enemies that you have as well.
Yeah.
But I use the term enemy loosely. I don't consider anybody being an enemy.
Yeah.
But anyone that opposes me or my positions or questions my character because of a position I have and a vote that I take, I don't pay that much mind.
One of the things that we're really trying to do with this podcast in particular is it's more than just a younger demographic. So the people that are listening to this aren't just young people, but obviously young people relate to it because we're younger, doing the interviews and producing it and our social media following. But we wanted to educate people that you can have conversations with everybody. And we've had Mayor Henry on here. He's a Democrat. Having you, having Ernie Audino, having Reggie Thea, having all different types of people from all walks of life, that it's important to be able to have a conversation with anybody.
It's great to hear all the lists of people that you've had on here before me.
Save the best for last.
Yeah, sure.
Save the best for last.
Keep going with that. So no one's after me, right?
No. We end the show here.
All
but
right.
For young people listening, what would be your message to them that are starting to educate themselves on politics? That you were a teacher, so just what would be your message to them as they start to transition into getting educated and learning politics? What would be your message to them?
Well, I guess two messages. One, if they're just getting in to learn it, be willing to look at all sides of the issues and be honest with with your conclusions.
Mm-hmm.
Don't when I give a commencement speech, no matter which group or which school I'm talking to, my message typically is summed up with: don't ever let society or societal expectations dictate who you are and who you can become. We unfortunately suffer with that problem. Our younger generation, they see who they're expected to be, and then all right, that kind of boxes them in to be that person or that type of person, and hold those kind of beliefs. Don't be afraid to have your beliefs challenged. You should put them through the ringer. If somebody has a belief system and they're afraid to listen to the other side, then how committed are you going to be to your beliefs? You want to know that. That's why I talk all day about my faith and the resurrection of Jesus Christ.
How important of a role that played.
I can talk about how important of a role that plays because I have put that to the test, not just emotionally, but intellectually. I've studied it, and at the end of the day, if somebody can show me the bones of Jesus, I would shut my Bible, never preach a word of it again. But the resurrection is one of the greatest documented facts in all of history, and through archaeology, through science, through testimony, through investigative journalism, you name it. But I put the time and effort to study that stuff and to make sure that you are solid in what you believe. And the only way you can be solid in what you believe is also to know what you don't believe and what the challenges are to those beliefs. And it's not to say that you'll ever have a perfect faith or anything of that nature, whether it be in your religion or your political views, but you want to have them challenged. The scripture is very clear: iron sharpens iron. You want to sharpen yourself, all throughout your life. So that'd be the first thing I would say is study what you believe, why you believe it, and understand all sides, study what the opposite side believes, and then come down to your conclusions and where they're at, and then stick to your guns. Don't let anybody shame you for what you believe, or question your morality because of your political persuasion. But if a young person is interested in running for office, whether that be a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, what I would say to that individual, if there's ever a chance in your mind that you think you may run for office, but this also advice could be for any career that you're going to have. You're planning and preparing for that office right now. You're campaigning right now. Because when you do run for office, or when you apply for a job, or whatever it is you're going to do, you're not campaigning based on your belief system. Yeah, you are in a sense. People want to know what you believe. But what do you do? At the end of the day, you're campaigning on your reputation and what people know about you, and what people think about you. And you spend an entire life, you can build a political platform in a week. It takes years to build a reputation. So that's what young people are doing right now. These guys over here that you're mentoring here, they're spending their lives, formidable years right now, building a reputation. So someday, maybe 10 years from now, they're going to go and ask for somebody's vote, and they're going to remember what they used to be like 10 years from now. And it'll be that memory of them that will cause them to vote for them or not, or hire them or not. They might have to go and get a job somewhere, and the person that's interviewing them is somebody that they bullied in high school. Think they're going to get that job? Not a chance. So you spend your entire life building a reputation, and then you're going to run and you're going to interview on that reputation. Yeah, your belief system is important to you, but it's your namesake. It's what you've done with that is what's going to count at the end of the day.
That's terrific advice. I have a few last questions for you. One, and you've already kind of touched on it, was the importance of having a higher purpose. Servitude, serving others, and then obviously faith playing such a huge role. Do you feel like faith is what grounds you to be able to go through everything that you're going through, good and bad?
Absolutely. It's the only thing that grounds me. It's the only thing that should ground anybody. It's their faith. And I always find it laughable when people criticize me for bringing my faith into public office. This whole separation of church and state mindset, which appears nowhere in the Constitution, first of all. But I would ask the person, where do you derive your moral code from? And do you not bring your moral values into your political arena when you're making your decisions based on law? Where does law come from? It's come from the moral code that you have. So absolutely, my faith, I'm not perfect by any means, and I'm not a perfect example of Jesus Christ, but my faith absolutely defines who I am and is always going to have a major impact. It is always going to be the foundation of anything that I say and do up there. Again, doesn't mean I'm always going to get it right. As a matter of fact, more often than not, I'm going to get it wrong. But I know where the motives are, and I know at the end of the day why I'm doing this. Political office is, I'm always concerned when people are in office or in a particular position of power, and that position or that title becomes their identity. It's a very dangerous thing to allow that to happen to anybody when their entire livelihood and entire self-worth is built around a job, a position, or a responsibility or a title next to their name. Because at some point, that job, that title is not going to exist anymore. So what are you going to do when it's not there? How do you redefine yourself? How do you give yourself more purpose again? And that's the beauty about building your life upon your relationship with Christ, is that is an eternal platform. That is an eternal reason that I have for living. Again, none of that makes me perfect. Matter of fact, I'm far more imperfect than most people I know. But at the end of the day, what's going to drive me is not pleasing somebody over here or pleasing this social media group over here. It's, what has the Lord directed me to do? Am I going to honor and please Him today?
Yeah, that's powerful. 3 last questions for you. if someone is getting called, they're listening to this podcast, or they feel like they want to take charge and they're getting called to lead, and that could be in their life, it could be within their household, it could be stepping up in their job, whatever the case may be, what would be your piece of advice for someone that is looking to start leading? How do you take that first step of getting better?
If you want to lead, you have to be willing to learn. Ask as many questions as possible. Find people that are that are also leaders in their own right, and people you respect and admire, and talk to and ask them the tough questions and listen to them, and learn from them as well. Look at your past mistakes as well. Again, you can learn a lot from your own life on things that you've overcome and how you overcame it, or how you may have been in that mess longer than perhaps you should have. Do a lot of introspection and looking backward can be good. You don't want to look back and hurt yourself going forward, but there's a lot of lessons to be learned in the past. I like the old saying, those who don't know history are therefore condemned to repeat it. But I also personalize it as well. If you don't know your own past mistakes and how you did it, you're destined to make those mistakes again, and you don't want to do that. So in order to lead, I think you have to put yourself in a position to constantly be learning and be steady in that leadership. Because one of the things that people look for in a leader is not somebody that's going to get it right all the time, but somebody that you can count on what you're going to get from them all the time. Whether or not they're, I bring it back to full circle, back to the basketball guys. I want a leader of somebody that's going to be focused no matter what the situation is. Whether you're up by 20 or you're down by 5, I want the same focus. Maybe not the same level of intensity. All right, there's a difference between intensity and focus, because your intensity when you're down by 5 is going to be much different than when you're up by 20. That doesn't mean your focus changes. Your focus at the end of the day, you want to win the game. You have to do different things when you're down by 5 versus what you have to do when you're up by 20. But your focus is always going to be the same. So I think people want leaders who are going to be focused at the end of the day, no matter what the scenario is. Because when that time comes and the buzzer beater hits, they trust you because you've demonstrated that whether things are going great or things are going bad, you don't lose control. You maintain your focus at all times. So work on that and learn as much as you can.
Last two, what's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Oh, man. I would say 2.
Okay.
One is a little bit more of a humorous one, but you'll find you'll refer back to that way more often than you will anything else. Pat Williams. Okay. Former general manager of the Orlando Magic. I was at a student leadership conference, Chase Tremont leadership conference, when I was in high school, junior year. It was in Orlando. And Pat Williams was one of the speakers there. And during one of those breakout sessions, and again, I'm a teenager, I'm not paying attention to anything. He gave his 10 greatest pieces of advice. Okay. I remember number 10. I don't remember 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. None of them. I remember 10. And 10 was the last one he gave. Maybe it was 1. I just remember the last thing he said. Go to the bathroom every chance you get.
I have to go so bad right now, too.
No, it's crazy.
That was it. That was it. There's nothing philosophical about it. There's nothing outstanding about it, but it's very applicable. How many times, and apparently right now, you notice where I went before we started this interview?
The bathroom.
I went to the restroom, yeah. How many times have you been in a situation, and I did it because of that. That has stuck with me. How many times have you been in a position in your life where you've said, dang it, I wish I went to the restroom.
All the time.
I go to the bathroom right now. I got 2 people in here that wish they had done that. So I absolutely live by that.
I love that.
So that is one. Okay. The other one is a little bit more kind of what you're looking for, and you can post that because I think it's good advice that everybody should take. The other one is Be who you are. Be who you are. No matter what people respond, how people respond to you, no matter what they think of you, be who you are. And here's why. If people don't like you for who you are, they're definitely not going to like you for who you're not and who you're trying to be. So people can spot a fake.
Yeah.
Anytime. But, so I've taken that and I never waver from that. I'm going to be who I am. I'm going to make the decisions that I make. And I'm going to tell people like it is. Respectfully and always, with as much compassion as I can, particularly when I know it's news that somebody doesn't want to hear.
Yeah.
Not afraid to have those conversations. But, it's been proven to me throughout my time in this particular elected capacity that something I always believed to be true, but is proven to be true, that people are not interested in, they're not looking for people to just tell them what they want to hear. They want people to tell it what they need to hear and what is the truth.
Be authentic.
Yeah, because they can spot that a mile away. And if you just tell people what they want to hear, then you're going to have to tell this person what they want to hear, and it may be the complete opposite. And you're going to put yourself in a big bind when you're having to make a decision between those two. That's a problem. So be who you are, and if your mind ever changes on something, particularly in elected office, somebody's going to vote for something that maybe you said you were going to vote against, and if you've told somebody, yes, I'm with you, then call that person prior and let them know, hey, just want you to know I've had a change of heart. I want you to hear this before I make my decision official. That's just
a classy thing
That's
to do.
good business, good faith.
Last question. Look at the clock management right here. What is coming up for you? Like, what is the next big thing? What's going on now? Where can people support you? Where can they find anything that you have going on today and going forward?
Oh, I thought you were going to do that legacy question.
What do you want to be remembered for?
Yeah, and
that's tied in with that.
I still don't even have an answer for that, to be quite honest.
What do you want to be remembered for?
Well,
let's ask that one then.
Well, like I said, I don't have an answer for that. Nothing's big for me. I mean, I think the big thing for me every day is providing and taking care of my family. I mean, I've got an election coming up, and of course that's big, and I wouldn't try to downplay that, but that's so far down on my radar because the most important thing I have is my family, taking care of them day in and day out. If I don't deliver on that responsibility,
nothing else matters.
It doesn't matter. Yeah, you can win all the elections in the world, but lose your family and you've lost it all. The next big thing I have is tomorrow. And the rest of the day. The next big thing that I have today is picking up Kennedy from school. That's the next big thing I have. That's the biggest thing that's on my calendar for the day.
I love
taking her home, getting her some chocolate milk, playing with little Chase Jr. That's
beautiful family.
That's the next big thing that I have.
That's the only thing that we are going to accept. That wasn't this. So
yeah.
Just letting you know.
Yeah.
That is a fact.
Yeah.
What you want to be remembered for?
Again, at the end of the day, I actually tried to think about this, but I couldn't. I couldn't come up with an answer because I think when you're leaving legacies or want to be remembered or whatever that is, that entails me really caring about what somebody thinks of me and what I do. And I can't make my decisions based on what anyone has thought of me or what anybody will think about me later on. I just want to know that, my family is taken care of, that anything I've instilled into them is going to be carried on. I kind of hope that they have the same mindset that I have with my, that my parents, led with me. What is the legacy that my dad has left, that my mom has left? I mean, who talks about them on a daily basis?
Yeah.
Nobody does. Yeah, they remember them, great people. But, at the end of the day, the legacy that I'm looking for is, I was true to my faith. I served the Lord Jesus Christ to the best of my ability, and I honored my wife and my kids every single day of my life. Aside from that, I don't care if anybody remembers me about anything politically or athletically or anything of that nature. I want to be known as somebody that served the Lord and provided for my family.
That's beautiful. Well, we really appreciate your time. Thank you for making me a better person.